Iraq, what are you doing? The Iran-Iraq war is only supposed to start in, 150 years? Yeah, this is a bit of an early Saddam Hussein going on here. Ali ibn Ahmad. So, yeah, making Saddam's dream come true, I guess. Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Grand Strategy, where today we're gonna play Victoria 2 and we're gonna ask the question, what happens when you add Byzantium at the start date of 1836? So I've gone ahead and I've added the Byzantine Empire into the game. As you can see, they pretty much occupy the kind of region that the Ottoman Empire would have in base game. They have a population of about 5.9 million people, and most of those peoples are farmers. So just like with Poland, Lithuania, again, a very rural country. But alright, let's hop right in and see what kind of situation Byzantium is in at the start of this game. Just so you're not confused, I gave Byzantium its borders or all the lands that it held around the year 1030. Which was arguably, I would say, the last time that Byzantium was really strong and held a lot of land. And after that, it was kind of downhill for them. It was not the time of their greatest extent. I'll explain why I didn't choose that in just a bit. But yeah, it was a time where they were really strong, had a lot of territory, so that's why I chose it. At the time of their greatest extent, Byzantium actually held all of this land. So everything that's with the little green stripes here. And I thought that this, episode would be more interesting if we didn't just create a super powerful Byzantium at the start, but instead we created a Byzantium that's powerful, but not overpowered, but has all its claims, so it can reconquer all the lands that it once held. Now, if we look at the map like this, you can see that, yeah, it is indeed a lot of land that they can reconquer. So it's all of Italy, Dalmatia around here, all of the Levant, Egypt, large parts of North Africa, and even parts of southern Spain. So that means, as you can also see, that Byzantium is gonna be in conflict with lots and lots of countries, even with 4 of the game's great powers, so with Austria, France, Spain, and the UK. If you're wondering about the UK, that's because of Gibraltar and because of Malta. So yeah, if Byzantium wants to reconquer all this land, they are definitely gonna fight lots and lots of other countries. The only great powers in Europe that Byzantium's not gonna be at war with are Prussia, or probably later on Germany, and Russia. Or I shouldn't say not gonna be at war with, but at least that Byzantium has no claims on or no cores on. About Russia real quick. Historically speaking, at some point Byzantium held a little bit of land around here, but I decided not to give them cores on that, just so Byzantium and Russia wouldn't kill each other, because I think it's good if Byzantium has a potential for a strong ally in Russia. Also, of course, both of them were Orthodox nations, so I think it makes some amount of sense that the two of them would come to an agreement where Byzantium can hold Sevastopol around here, but gives up a little bit of territory to the Russians around here, and the two of them coexist in peace, basically. But yeah, if we look at their cores once again, if Byzantium should in fact manage to reconquer all or at least most of this land, then what that would mean is, I think, that they would become, on the one hand, the clear rulers of the Mediterranean, controlling both the Suez Canal and the Straits of Gibraltar, so they can control both entrances to the Mediterranean. And it would also probably mean that Byzantium is the #1 naval power in the game, just because of the amount of coastal territories that they would hold. If you don't know, in Victoria 2, the way it works is you build, are they called dockyards, or are they called, one second, you build, naval bases. And you can only build 1 naval base per coastal state. So the more coastal states you control, the more naval bases you can build, and the more naval bases you have, the more ships you can have. And also, your naval bases are way more effective at increasing your ship limit if the regions you hold are connected on land to your capital. So what that means is that, for example, if the UK conquers all of France, While it gives them a lot of new coastlines, it won't increase their naval limit quite that much because all of this coastline is not connected to London by land. On the other hand, Byzantium here can conquer all of Italy, all of North Africa in a connected manner to their homeland or to Constantinople. I'm not sure, to be honest, if this here counts as a land connection, so it might only be this land that gives them naval power, but I think it counts as a land connection. I'm not 100% on that. Anyway, so we're probably going to see Byzantium as the #1 naval power also if they're doing really, really well. Some other minor changes you might have noticed. I removed this land here from the Ottomans too and gave it to Bosnia. I also gave all of this land to Tripoli, and I gave this land to Iraq, just because I thought, it would be weird if the Ottomans existed with these 3 disconnected territories. So I just instead removed them from the game completely and gave these territories to other countries that, made sense in my opinion. Anyways, that's the starting situation. If we look into Byzantium a little more, we can see they have really high literacy. I gave them high literacy on purpose just because I think Byzantium, historically speaking, was a big center of learning. And so I think it makes sense that their population would be very literate if they survived all the way to 1836. This amount of literacy, I think, puts them among the most literate nations in Europe. I think we can check that somewhere. Yes. So it doesn't put them at a #1 spot, but we can see it puts them just behind Prussia. So definitely a very literate and a very strong nation because of that also, hopefully. We can also see Byzantium has a pretty strong army of 36 brigades right now. If you're wondering, I just copy-pasted the Ottoman army into Byzantium. So what did I do wrong here? Why is this army led by von Moltke? That does not seem to make a lot of sense. Okay, this one is led by Pasha, though, yeah. So you can see most of them are Ottoman generals. Don't worry about that. It's not super historical, but it was just a shortcut to not have to do too much work recreating the Byzantine army here. Other interesting things to look at maybe, if we look at the Byzantine population, it's only around 16% Greek, and then we have lots of other, nationalities here in their population. I actually went ahead and gave Byzantium 4 additional accepted cultures in addition to Greek, namely Turkish, Mizri, which is Egyptian, and South Italian and North Italian. To also explain that real quick, let's go back to nationality here. I think it's helpful for Byzantium if all their, let's say, main historic regions, the population there would accept them. Is that super realistic? Probably not, but I think it makes the run more interesting because it means that if Byzantium, for example, conquers Egypt or conquers all of Italy, the population there is going to accept them, is not going to revolt, and they can use the population to its fullest, so they can recruit the normal amount of brigades out of that population. And I also think there is some historical sense to it, right? Like Italy, obviously the home of the Roman Empire, Byzantium, obviously the last remnant of the Roman Empire, so maybe the Italians would accept Byzantium as their rulers. Also, if this is what the Byzantine Empire looked like in 1836, then yeah, Turkish people would probably identify with that nation and would probably be fine living in that nation, so I also think it makes some amount of sense for that. And then also Egypt was, historically speaking, a super important part of Byzantium. I think Alexandria was even the seat of a very high Christian representative. So I also thought, make it interesting and make it so Egypt is a really good region for Byzantium. I didn't give them all the different nationalities. So of course I could have, expanded this, given them Bulgarian, Serbian, Maghrebi here, Mashriki here, but I think that might be too overpowered if I just gave them all of the nationalities. So I think like this, it's pretty strong for them, but still not overpowered. They get like Greek, Turkish, both Italians and Egyptian as accepted cultures. All right, I've been talking for a really long time now. I think I've said most important things about the whole setup, about how Byzantium is gonna start. And so now I'm just gonna tag switch over to my favorite observer country, Sikkim, over here. and then we're gonna unpause the game and see what happens and how Byzantium is doing. Alright, so we're Sikkim now, we're watching Byzantium, and I think to unpause the game, I'm just gonna go into diplomatic mode so we can see immediately if Byzantium is starting any wars. One little thing I forgot to mention is that Byzantium does not start with any industry, so that is definitely one area where they're lagging behind the other great powers. But for example, yeah, Russia, Spain also not starting with industry, so this shouldn't be too bad for them, I would think. Alright, and we're seeing an immediate war where Byzantium here is declaring war on Bosnia, or Bosnia-Herzegovina as it's called here. So yeah, I think pretty reasonable war for them. Bosnia has no allies, they have cores on all of Bosnia's land, so definitely makes sense for Byzantium to start a war against the Bosnians here. I think they're gonna win that really, really quick, and then it's gonna be interesting to see if they continue like that, and if they just, declare war on one country after the other and try to reconquer all their land as quick as possible, or are they going to chill for a bit, search allies, try to increase their power. It looks like for now Byzantium is staying at peace for a little bit, so yeah, I'm gonna let you back in a little later. Alright, war number 2 for Byzantium, this time against the two Sicilies, which might be a more interesting war just because the two Sicilies is obviously overseas and has a stronger army, at least in this region, than Byzantium does. So Byzantium is gonna have to transport its own armies over if it really wants to win this war. So we're gonna see if they're able to do that. Or maybe, are we seeing that here? Yeah, maybe they're getting military access. Yes, they are getting military access through Austria and through the Italian countries. So I believe in that case, this should also be a pretty easy win for Byzantium. Let's see what their war goal is here. They want to get, yeah, all of the two Sicilies. Makes sense. They have cores again on all of this country. And also with their accepted culture of South Italian and North Italian, this is of course really good land for Byzantium, because Byzantium can, as I said, get all these people, like, it's kind of weird how to phrase this, but fully use all these people, or all these people are going to be fully okay with Byzantine rule and with serving in the Byzantine army and all that. But yeah, I might have spoken too soon. It looks like Byzantium's really struggling with actually defeating the two Sicilies here. Now they're doing a little better maybe, but the two Sicilies has one really strong army stack here. Okay, but finally they got beaten by the Byzantines. So in the end, yeah, Byzantium's probably gonna win, but this was not a super easy war for them, and they already have pretty high losses too probably in this war. So we're gonna see how that affects them. So as we expected, Byzantium won its war against the two Sicilies and now started its next war against Egypt, which is another war that I think they are going to be able to win. Although the war against the two Sicilies definitely cost them dearly, so their army is not nearly as strong as it could be. Also, by the way, one final change that I forgot to mention, I renamed Istanbul to Constantinople, just because I think it makes more sense if it's ruled by Byzantium. Oh, and as it seems, Byzantium already won that war against the Egyptians and took the state of, what is it called? Sorry, one second. The state of Aleppo here from Egypt. Wow, okay, there's a lot of things happening in this game. So Byzantium declared war on Austria, trying to reconquer some of its Austrian lands, which of course also means that Byzantium is now fighting Austria's allies in South Germany as well as North Italy. So if it were only Byzantium against all of these nations, then I would say they would definitely lose this war. However, Austria is also at war with Prussia in pretty much a world war almost here that resulted from a crisis, and Prussia is also allied to UK and Spain versus Austria, France and Russia. So really big war going on, and Byzantium is kind of using that war as an opportunity to attack the Austrians. However, Prussia is only at war with Austria themselves, so all of Austria's allies in northern Italy and southern Germany are fighting Byzantium without also fighting these other nations, so they're only going to focus on Byzantium. So yeah, lots of talking, but what all this means is I think that Byzantium is really going to struggle and probably not going to win this war. So this might be their first war they lose against the big Austrian alliance here, but we'll see how it plays out. I think even though it's gonna make this video a lot longer, I might just be recording through the beginning of this war just to see how the beginning develops. So yeah, we see lots of battles, Byzantium not doing too bad, but definitely the Austrian allies having gigantic stacks. Now here I just saw 50 stacks around this area, now a 30 stack around here. So yeah, I don't think Byzantium has the numbers superiority here. However, now Austrian armies moving away from the Byzantine front to fight the Prussians in their other war, so that might help the Byzantines, and looks pretty balanced so far, I would say, on the Byzantine front. We can just quickly also take a look how many brigades the Byzantines have in this war. So in total, they right now have 83 brigades, which is more than Austria has by quite a lot. So it might in the end work out for them. It might be enough and they might be able to take land from the Austrians. If we look at the war goal, Byzantium wants to conquer Dalmatia. So that's, I believe, this coastal state right here. Again, good goal for them, good conquest for them if they manage to pull it off. So far the war is going pretty well for them, but to actually get Dalmatia and also Croatia now, which they also want, they would have to beat all of these nations pretty severely and get to around, I'd say, 80% war score in this war. So yeah, that's definitely gonna be quite a hard goal to achieve. But yeah, looks like Byzantium's really doing well. I think I'm not gonna record through the whole war, so I'll get back to you as soon as the war is decided. So the war is not decided yet, sorry about that, but it's a really interesting war. Both sides are fighting tooth and nail here. The battles are going back and forth. Both sides are pretty much have lost all of their armies at this point and are fighting with one or two bigger stacks in this conflict. Byzantium is not able to re-recruit lots and lots of brigades, which Austria is able to do. Austria, yeah, as we see here, recruiting more brigades than Byzantium. So the longer this war drags on, I think the better it's going to be for Austria. But right now, Byzantium still winning most battles and still having the bigger stacks around this area. So yeah, still undecided, still hard to tell how it's going to end. All right, and finally, after a long and really bloody war, Byzantium has won and has gotten Dalmatia as well as Croatia from the Austrians. In the end, they also added a wall goal on Slovenia here, but they were not able to take that. However, even just taking what they took really, I think, boosted them a lot. And if we actually look at statistics right now, Byzantium's at 30 million total pop, so just a little bit behind the Austrians, but already ahead of countries like the USA or Prussia by quite a lot, double their population pretty much. So definitely heading to become a great power. Also, Byzantium's built its first factories, we can see here, and they still have a lot of brigades. Is that correct? No, sorry, they don't have a lot of brigades. They have 4 brigades in total after that really destructive war. So good for Byzantium that they won, but right now they really need to build up and gain strength again before they can think of attacking another country. Okay, interesting alliance. Byzantium's just allied the North German Federation that has formed, which I think is a great alliance for them because, as I said, these two countries do not have any areas of conflict. So these two countries might stay allied for a really long time. And also, of course, NGF can help Byzantium against Austria in getting the rest of northern Italy, could even help Byzantium against France in getting Corsica here, for example. So great alliance for Byzantium that's really gonna help them out. And there we go, Byzantium started another war against Egypt. And in this time, Persia is also involved in the war and is also fighting the Byzantines. And with how many divisions Byzantium lost against Austria, I'm not even 100% sure that they're going to manage to pull this off. However, I think with their very high literacy and with them being westernized, they're probably going to have better technology. And so probably even though they don't have that many divisions, their divisions are better quality. So yeah, we can see Byzantium is again winning that war. And we have a big crisis brewing in Europe where North German Federation wants to release Romania from Austria and Austria wants to get Schlesien from NGF. and NGF is allied with Byzantium, of course. However, Austria managed to get Russia and France on its side in this war, so this is a big one. I believe this early in the game, France, Austria, Russia is gonna be stronger than its enemies in this war, even though Austria, of course, just got defeated pretty badly. But yeah, NGF on its own can probably not win against France and Russia at the same time. And as we saw, Byzantium is pretty much just as strong as Austria. So, of course, we're going to watch and we're going to see who wins. But I would say the advantage is probably with the anti-German coalition in this war. If the German and Byzantine side loses this war, it's probably not going to be too horrible for Byzantium, because the main war goal here is on Germany. So worst that could happen is that Austria wants its 2 provinces back, I think, from Byzantium. Maybe Russia wants one of the border provinces. But yeah, other than that, it shouldn't be too bad for Byzantium if they lose this. Of course, any war that you lose is going to be bad for you just because of getting occupied, losing lots of divisions. But yeah, as I said, I think it's not going to be the worst thing ever if Byzantium loses. However, so far it doesn't look too bad for them, to be honest. So far it doesn't look too bad for the Byzantine German side. Maybe the higher literacy these 2 countries have compared to all of their enemies here just means that they already have better tech, even though only about 15 years have passed in-game. And just means that they can use that better tech to win battles and to cause more losses to their enemies than their enemies can cause to them. Seeing right now, even Byzantium has some armies locked in southern Italy that aren't even helping in the war, and still the Byzantine side is doing pretty well. However, there's a big Russian invasion coming into eastern Byzantium, or into eastern Anatolia, if we want to call it that. So yeah, but they're winning pretty clearly against Austria, so I wonder if that's going to be enough, if the Austrians are going to accept peace purely, or mostly at least, based on the occupation of Austria, even though France and Russia are still mostly independent. I also just got declared war on, so I really quickly gotta switch over to a different country. 1 second. Alright, so let's continue. Once again, as this is a really big and interesting war, I think I'm gonna record through most of it. Please, if you watch this video this far, let me know if you think it's better if I record most of the big wars, or if you just want to know when a war starts and how the war ends. Obviously, if I record through most of the big wars, this episode might get like 2 or 3 hours long, so that might be too much. But on the other hand, I think it's really, really interesting to see what's happening here. Like, this is again a war where we see here the North Germans and French lost pretty much all of their divisions in the war. But yeah, in the end, it seems the North German Byzantine side was able to win this war and was able to release Romania, which is good for Romania, of course, but might mean trouble for Byzantium down the line, because Romania has cores on some Byzantine provinces here. Maybe we could also take this time to just discuss other countries that have cores on Byzantium and that might mean trouble for Byzantium later on. So obviously there's Egypt that wants a lot of land from Byzantium. However, I don't think Egypt is strong enough to really beat Byzantium unless they have really, really good allies. I think even this alliance is not going to be able to defeat the Byzantines. Then, as we just discussed, Romania has cores here. Russia, as I said, does not have a core here. I just thought I would remove that to give the Byzantines more of a chance and to not make them have to fight Russia too. Austria, of course, has cores on the Byzantine lands that they lost already. Then if Italy will manage to form in northern Italy, of course it will also have cores on southern Italy around here and the Byzantine lands there. And then late game, we could even see Byzantium getting lands here in North Africa, as well as Gibraltar, southern Spain, which would obviously also create conflict between them and the Spanish, French, and the UK. Also, we see Byzantium declaring war now on Tripoli as well as Algeria. They are managing to get their armies over, so this should be a really easy war for them to win. So yeah, as we expected, Byzantium managed to win its war against Tripoli and Algeria and took one state from Algeria as a result, and is now once again attacking Egypt, which should be another easy war for them to win. Alright, while Byzantium is slowly occupying Egypt here, I thought one more interesting thing to talk about is the resources that Byzantium starts with here in the game. And specifically because it was a major problem for Poland-Lithuania last game, let us look at iron. So Byzantium actually has a good amount of iron in its eastern Anatolian regions, as well as now in the Balkans here. So they should not be struggling with that in the same way that Poland and Lithuania did. Also, I believe coal, they have some coal provinces all around their country. So yeah, Byzantium definitely has the kind of resources it will need to build a strong economy, although its coal provinces, as it looks here, are mostly really low population provinces, so provinces that don't produce quite that much coal. But yeah, that shouldn't be a big bother for them. I think Byzantium is going to be able to become an industrial great power as well in this game. And there's the peace deal. Byzantium took, I believe, 3 or 4 states here from Egypt. So definitely growing quickly, growing strong. Yes, so far I believe the first about 20 years of this game has just been Byzantium expanding quickly in all directions, winning wars in all directions. So maybe the rest of the game is gonna stay like this and Byzantium is gonna be able to reconquer all its land, but I hope it's gonna be interesting in the late game, and I hope we are gonna see some challenges that maybe Byzantium is not able to overcome. All right, here is another Byzantine-Austrian war. And this time, oh, never mind. Okay, this time North Germany is again helping the Byzantine side. And this time they're even allies, I believe. So it's not 2 separate wars. Yeah, it's one war where both of them are attacking Austria. So yeah, this is going to be an easy war where Byzantium and the North Germans are overrunning Austria. And oh, never mind. This is actually an Austrian war against Byzantium, not the other way around. But yeah, still, this should be a war that these two have no problem of winning. And we're probably going to see them add some war goals very soon and take some lands from the Austrians. Interesting, I believe the war ended in a white peace, and Byzantium didn't actually take any lands despite having claims on a lot of Austrian territory. And also North Germany didn't take any lands despite, you know, Bohemia, for example, being right here on the border and being a really strong industrial state. So yeah, I don't know why they didn't do that, but they just decided to let Austria be this big for now. Alright, I'm not even sure if it's worth mentioning at this point, but Byzantium once again attacked the Egyptians and is getting more territory from them, of course. Also, we have one bugged war here of the Ottomans versus Tripoli, which of course isn't happening as the Ottomans don't exist. But yeah, I guess that's just one little bug we'll have to live with. Also, I just wanted to say at this point, sorry if you can hear some annoying music in the background. That's not the annoying music I added myself. There's a big festival going on outside and it's really, really hot in my room, so I had to open the window. So you might be able to hear some of the music from the festival. If that's the case, as I said, sorry, but I hope my own music is gonna be louder than that and is gonna, well, make the other music not hearable. Iraq, what are you doing? The Iran-Iraq war is only supposed to start in, what, 150 years? Yeah, this is a bit of an early Saddam Hussein going on here. Ali ibn Ahmad. So, yeah, making Saddam's dream come true, I guess. And there is yet another Byzantium and NGF versus Austria war. However, this time Austria is helped by Russia, which is definitely going to make this war more interesting, I tried to say, but they won before I was even able to say that. Alright, it didn't make the war more interesting. Yeah, these two countries are super overpowered and they are allied. So we might see a game here where this coalition of NGF and Byzantium is basically just ruling Europe and everyone else has to follow their will. Also, this is the peace deal between Byzantium and Egypt, by the way. I believe by Victoria II's mechanics, Byzantium is not able to take Cairo or Egypt's capital state here before Egypt hasn't lost all its other territory, which, I mean, Ethiopia is working on it, but that might not happen. So if that's not happening, then we might see a little bit of Egypt left in the Delta region here for the rest of the game, even though Byzantium might take some more other land from them. But I believe Egypt is going to be left with a little bit of land, at least around here. So that will mean that Byzantium's probably not going to be able to take this land right here. This game is crazy, man. I like, why am I even stopping to record when another interesting thing happens like basically every month? So we have a French war against Spain, but at the same time NGF and Byzantium decided now's the time to take Alsace-Lorraine from the French. So 2 wars against France, and I believe, is that? Yes, Byzantium actually now also decided they want to annex the Papal State. So this might be a war that ends up really helping Byzantium, getting more land in Italy, and also really helping NGF get Alsace-Lorraine and potentially form Germany very soon. While France is pretty much effed at this point with a big war against Spain, big war against Germany. Yeah, I don't see France having any chance here. So yeah, as expected, the peace deal was Alsace-Lorraine for North Germany and the Papal States for Byzantium. So I believe it's a good time maybe to take another look at some statistics and see the Byzantine population, which is absolutely massive at this point with 40 million people in Byzantium. So they're bigger than Austria, bigger than Japan, bigger than NGF at this point. The only other great powers ahead of them would be France, Russia, and the UK. And as we already saw, France is not really all that strong. Well, I mean, they're doing pretty well against Spain, but they're not strong, at least against Byzantium and NGF. So I believe the only thing at this point that could really endanger Byzantium would either be losing its alliance with NGF and then an alliance of several countries attacking them, or basically a coalition of all of the rest of Europe fighting against Byzantium and NGF. But as we saw before, even France, Austria, and Russia combined were not able to defeat this superpower duo, so I believe we'd have to get the UK in there too, and then maybe these 4 countries all combined could really stand a chance. But otherwise, I think this game is gonna go really well for Byzantium, and we're gonna see them reconquer most of their cores and become one of the maybe top 3 great powers in this game. And just as I say that, here is a war between NGF and Byzantium, backing different sides in a big crisis about the liberation of Poland, where the UK, Belgium, and NGF are gonna fight Russia, Bavaria, and Byzantium. Bavaria also a great power at this point, where Britain wants British Columbia and Poland wants to be independent from the Russians. So yeah, this is gonna split the superpower duo of Europe, which I think is really gonna make this game more interesting. So I'm glad that that happened. If we want to look at it on a diplomatic map, it now means there's an alliance between Byzantium and Russia, and they're fighting NGF and UK. So I think this should be a pretty balanced war. I don't see either side really dominating in this war. So yeah, I'll get back to you when we're a bit later in the war and when we see maybe which side seems to be getting out on top. Just looking at brigade counts right now, NGF and UK actually are way ahead of Russia and Byzantium. So I believe this will be a war that NGF and UK will win. If they win, what they want so far is only the liberation of Poland. So far not looking like a war that's going to be too bad for Byzantium. Besides the units that are obviously dying in the war, Byzantium's probably not going to lose any land. I also don't think that the UK wants any Byzantine lands, so yeah, probably gonna stay united. But yeah, there we see it, peace, and Poland was released. Oh, but here's Austria thinking that now is a good chance to retake some of its lost lands from the Byzantines. Might be true, Byzantium definitely weakened after that war, so let's see if Byzantium, even after losing that big war, will still be able to defeat Austria. So far it's not looking too good for them. So far it looks like there's lots and lots of big Austrian stacks. Also, if we look at the brigade counts, so here we can see Austria ahead of Byzantium with 99 brigades, Byzantium only at 72. So this might be a chance for Austria to really retake some Byzantine lands. Peace was signed and Byzantium had to give up the state of Croatia to the Austrians here. So yeah, Byzantium definitely not doing super well at this moment. They've lost a big war to Germany, now a big war to Austria. We'll see if they're successfully able to rebuild and come back from this, or if this is the turning point and from now on it's downhill for Byzantium. Here's another significant development that's probably not in Byzantium's favor. Italy just formed. That means there's another great power now, or potential great power at least now in Europe, that might want, or that does want a lot of Byzantine land. So now Italy and Austria both want to attack Byzantium again and both want to take more land from the Byzantines. Also, if we look at the Byzantine population at this point, their soldier pop is really small compared to some other European powers. So even NGF with a lot smaller total population has more soldiers than Byzantium. So that will mean that Byzantium's also not going to be able to build a gigantic army again at this point. Their soldier pops will just need some time to replenish first. There is another war against Egypt right now. I still think Byzantium is going to be able to defeat the Egyptians. But if we see any more great power wars, so Russia, Austria, or Italy, France attack Byzantium here, I think it's not going to go well for the Byzantines at all. Byzantium has renewed its alliance with the NGF. So yeah, they I guess got over that war they had between themselves. And this is of course really going to help Byzantium get through the hard times they're in right now and survive the peace and survive the rebuilding phase that they have to do before any further conquests against any great powers at least can be done by them here. It is currently 1874, and here's another interesting war that just started. It's a war started by Austria to conquer Dalmatia back from Byzantium. However, North Germany is helping Byzantium and Russia is helping Austria. So I believe this will be a relatively balanced war with NGF of course being really strong, but Russia and Austria also both strong at this point, and Byzantium still pretty weakened from its last couple wars. So we'll see how it goes. Also, honorable mention, by the way, in this game to the Iraqis. Iraq has managed to take northern Arabia here. Iraq, well, now losing against Persia, just as I say that. But yeah, I think Iraq doing a lot better than I imagined they would be doing. Anyways, this war seems to have already ended, and it did end in a North German victory where they took Bohemia from the Austrians. The only thing, by the way, stopping them from forming Germany right now is that Bavaria is a great power, and so they can't get Bavaria into their sphere of influence. Yeah, now getting destroyed in this war made Austria so weak that even Italy at this point thinks it stands a chance against Austria. So yeah, as I said before, North Germany as an ally here really making Byzantium survive through its rebuilding time that it has right now. All right. 1876, and Germany attacked France, which means Germany is occupied, and at the same time now Byzantium is trying to conquer Modena, which is however protected by Russia. So this is pretty much a one-on-one war between the Russians and the Byzantines, which I'm not sure which of them is the stronger power here. If we look at the brigade count, then yeah, Russia is ahead of Byzantium, but not by a lot, and I think with their much higher literacy rate, Byzantium might have a lot better technology. Or I believe if we look right here, we can even see their military technologies somewhere. Yes, 16 miltech for Byzantium out of 30 and 12 for the Russians. So Byzantium definitely has the tech advantage, Russia has the numbers advantage. They're fighting in the mountains, fighting over Crimea, fighting over Moldavia. I believe in the end, with just being slightly behind in terms of numbers, but way ahead in terms of the technology, I would say Byzantium might have the advantage here, although here Russia has some really strong armies, so we'll see how it goes. So yeah, it looks like greater numbers are winning against better technology, and the Russians are defeating the Byzantines in this war. So far the Russians have not added any war goals of their own, but they might want to retake Crimea, they might want to take Dobruja or Kars here from Byzantium, so this could definitely not be good, not be great here for Byzantium. Also, it means of course that Byzantium has made another big enemy that they didn't need to make because there is no course that they can get from Russia. So I still think with their German alliance that is still intact, Byzantium will do really well, but definitely not a great war for them against the Russians. They got beaten pretty badly. They didn't lose any land in the end, but also of course didn't conquer Modena as they wanted to. And it means that Byzantium's armies are once again reset here in 1878, and they will once again pretty much have to start from zero in terms of their armies, other than Jesus here, who is of course walking on water. Also, by the way, colonization of Africa is in full swing, and so far I don't see Byzantium taking any land in Africa. also not really anywhere else. No, it doesn't look like it. Despite, of course, having really great provinces here to take land next to, and despite having a pretty big navy, and despite having lots of coastlines, so Byzantium should have a lot of colonial power. Some of that might be eaten up by some of the territories they hold, like I believe these territories right here and right here are going to take up some colonial power, but I'm still pretty sure Byzantium would have enough left over to at least colonize southern Libya here or parts of Algeria, but for some reasons they are deciding not to do that. However, we are seeing another big war here. What is this one? Byzantium once again wants to liberate, this time Toscana, which means a war against Italy, Spain, Baden, Modena, and Switzerland. And this time Italy actually wants land from Byzantium. So this time they really will lose if they lose. Like they really will lose land if they lose. And I believe after how badly they were beaten by Russia in the last war, they can of course mobilize a lot of divisions, but they don't have any big, good standing armies that can win this war for them. And the Italians, we can see here, they aren't extremely strong, but they have one good big army, and that might be all they need to really defeat Byzantium. While at the same time, even the South German miners really giving Byzantium a hard time here in the Yugoslavia area. So yeah, this might be a war that Byzantium actually loses in the end, and that might mean that Italy takes a lot of Italian states from Byzantium, which is really bad for them because as you know, Byzantium has cores on all these lands, and these lands are crucial for Byzantium. They are like high population lands. They are lands with pretty good RGO. No, okay, not that good RGO actually, but they are lands with lots of industry. They are lands with lots of population, and they are lands with cores. So Byzantium really doesn't want to lose them. Even Iraq at this point helping out their Byzantine overlords win against the Italians. We also see naval battles, which it looks like Byzantium's winning. It looks like Byzantium has the stronger navy compared to the Italians. But yeah, we see here now 3 strong stacks for the anti-Byzantium coalition. So I don't see how Byzantium can turn this back around and how Byzantium could win this war still. One thing to note in this war is that Spain has occupied Byzantine Algeria, but other than that, Spain is not really helping. And Byzantium still has some strong stacks in the fight. So as long as Spain is not really getting involved and not really sending its armies over, we might still have a hope for the Byzantines. Hey everyone, just a little heads up, since this campaign turned out to be super long and the video would have almost been 2 hours long if I made it all one video, I've decided to split the video up into 2 parts and 1 bonus part. So this is the end of video number 1, but I'll upload part 2 very soon. If you haven't already, please subscribe so you're gonna be notified when the second video goes live. And yeah, until then, bye bye.